As 2017 got underway, I had quite a lot going on in my life. We'd just moved back home to the frigid Midwest, my second child was born, and honestly, I was struggling with my own career path as I transitioned into working a job where I didn't really see a future. I was a bit lost at this point, to be honest, and all of this led me to start a YouTube channel centered around a hobby that was slowly taking up way too much of my time. I really had big dreams at that point. More than anything, I just wanted to be free and make a living doing something for myself, and somehow it would all work out. But I'm not gonna lie to you, a huge motivation for me was making more money, and not just for the purpose of providing for my family and giving us a better life. I wanted a car, and not just any car. I wanted a Tesla. I remember at this time spending hours building Model S and Model 3s on the Tesla site. The hype around Tesla at this time was real. I remember watching the Model 3 unveil, thinking, man, this car is truly the car of the future. And also, how can this guy make good on all of these crazy promises? Like, this car's going to be $35,000 and drive itself a year from now. Every time my family and I would see a Tesla, we would point it out. I thought that they were really cool cars. Over time, though, my view of Tesla would change quite a bit. It's not just that these cars became more commonplace, especially for us as we lived in larger cities. I just lost interest in the company and became mildly obsessed with classic cars and classic motorcycles and the experience that they provided. Little did I know how much was going on behind the scenes at Tesla, not just at this time, but through their whole history. It's really a fascinating story and one that is still ongoing. In many ways, this video is for myself. This deep dive into the company's short-lived but influential history, because even as I've criticized Tesla in my videos, I've always found the company fascinating and a bit mysterious. And whether you hate or love Tesla, there's no denying their influence. And so we carry on, sit back, grab a cup of something warm or cold depending on where you live right now, because like Bilbo, we shall go forward, for it is the only thing to do. Are you sick and tired of new cars like Teslas that are basically just appliances on wheels? Sick of giant screens, ugly cheap interiors, and a completely soulless driving experience? Have you longed for the thrill of driving a classic car, a real car? Well, I've got the perfect resource for you, my all-new Classic Car Buyer's Guide mini course. Whether you desire the analog experience of owning a Japanese sports car from the 90s, or the raw performance of an American muscle car from the 60s, or the headache of a British Roadster from the 50s, or a freaking Model T, I've got you covered, because in this course, we're looking at the history of classic cars, things to look out for when purchasing one of these cars, how to drive and maintain them, and so much more. For just $10, less than the price of a Burger King meal, this course can be yours. But there's more. Act now and use code BART50, that's BART50, and you can get the course for half off. That's just $5, less than just about anything on the Starbucks menu, and you'll be on your way to your dream and your dream car. Don't wait. That code will only be available, though, to the first 500 people, so act now. Use the link in the description. Don't forget to use code BART50 for 50% off, which is limited to 500 people. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. In the early 2000s, quite a few EV startups popped up, many in response to what could be called an automotive funeral. Actually, a mock funeral for the death of a car, and I'm not kidding. See, all the way back in the 1990s, a thing called CARB, that is California Air Resource Board, determined that something called the ZEV, or Zero Emissions Vehicle, was indeed possible and necessary. This ZEV mandate was really a push towards electric cars as the future by making it necessary for a certain amount of California sales from any automaker to be electric. GM responded alongside a group of Californian engineers with this, the Impact concept car. By utilizing lightweight materials and forward-thinking aerodynamics, the Impact maximized electric battery range. It was soon named EV1, but as quickly as it had appeared, GM killed the project and CARB's requirements were significantly watered down. Now, this death of EV1 led owners and enthusiasts, made up primarily of wealthy Californian businessmen and celebrities, to create a mock funeral for the car. A certain documentary called Who Killed the Electric Car would sort of create a conspiracy out of the whole affair, a conspiracy that Tesla would later latch onto. The notion that electric cars really are the sustainable future for automakers, but the whole industry is just too in bed with the oil companies, and so the only way forward for electric automobiles is to get politics involved. Prospective manufacturers of electric vehicles would need the backing of the federal government for anything to happen. In reality, GM scrapped the EV1 for various reasons, including expensive leases, battery supply issues, and also lobbying pressures. And Tesla would benefit from a kind of villain versus hero story against, the giant and the status quo of the industry. Tesla would come to exist out of this angst, but Tesla didn't get its start the way many other successful automotive startups do. There wasn't a massive injection of capital early on like we see today with companies like Rivian or Lucid. Unlike those companies, Tesla was created out of a dream to build an electric sports car. If you don't know already, Tesla wasn't founded by Elon Musk, despite what later documents may portray. Tesla was created all the way back in 2003 by these two guys, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. In many ways, Eberhard and Tarpenning embodied the ultimate Silicon Valley startup formula, that of hardware and software. The two had created a company called Nuvo, and their work in battery technology would lay the groundwork for e-readers going forward. After selling Nuvo in 2000, Eberhard was on the lookout for a sports car, but he wasn't too thrilled by the idea of a gas-guzzling machine. He'd also noticed that a car similar to the Prius, but more sporty, could actually make sense in the market, shown in the fact that most Prius owners had enough money to buy any car they wanted. So what if a car could offer the same sort of ideology as that of the Prius, but cost quite a bit more and also offer quite a bit more? This is what brought him and Tarpenning to the idea of a fully electric sports car. Now, this electric sports car goal really meant that few could have predicted that Tesla would ever become anything more than a highly niche manufacturer. Most automakers at this time approached electric vehicle development by creating goofy, overly futuristic commuter cars that really had little appeal to the general public. Tarpenning and Eberhard approached the whole project quite differently. They decided to go at those potential buyers who were less concerned with price and more interested in owning something truly special. They believed there was massive potential for performance in electric car technology, and they didn't see it necessary to make the car look any different than a traditional car. All of this would come together with Tesla's first car, designed and developed between 2003 and 2008, known as the Roadster. Tesla's approach to creating this novel electric sports car was heavily influenced by AC Propulsion's T0. This was a lightweight electric sports car prototype with, most importantly, really impressive acceleration. Tesla decided to license AC Propulsion's technology. Unlike many early EVs that used brushed DC motors, AC Propulsion pioneered the use of an AC induction motor, which was originally inspired by Nikola Tesla's designs. This motor type had several advantages, including high efficiency, reliability, and reduced maintenance due to the lack of brushes and commutators. The motor in the T0 produced about 200 horsepower, which was pretty impressive. AC Propulsion was also one of the first to experiment with lithium-ion cells and adapting them for automotive use. AC Propulsion also developed a bidirectional charger that allowed the car's inverter to act as a high-power AC charger, reducing the need for additional hardware. And this system would lay the groundwork for V2G, or vehicle-to-grid technology, enabling EVs to supply electricity back to the grid. So it was really smart for Tesla at this point to acquire this technology in developing the Roadster. This tech, and really the way Tesla would build on it, would lay the groundwork for Tesla's influential innovations going forward. Instead of developing an all-new chassis from scratch, an expensive and time-consuming process, Tesla chose to base its first car on the Lotus Elise, which was a lightweight sports car that they thought could be easily adapted for an electric powertrain. The decision to use the Lotus Elise chassis really gave them a strong starting point, but for anyone who's ever converted an ICE car to electric, you know this involves quite a few engineering challenges like weight balance, cooling, even structural rigidity. Tesla engineers developed a custom battery pack known as the Energy Storage System, consisting of nearly 7,000 lithium-ion cells. Managing heat and safety for such a large battery pack at this time was really an unprecedented challenge. Tesla implemented liquid cooling, a sophisticated battery management system, and safety redundancies to ensure performance and longevity. Another major hurdle was the transmission. Tesla initially partnered with suppliers to develop a 2-speed gearbox, as the single-speed design at the time couldn't meet Tesla's acceleration and top speed targets. But the two-speed design proved unreliable under high torque, which led Tesla to scrap it in favor of a single-speed transmission, which required the rework of the electric motor to compensate. But actually bringing this car to production was really difficult, and it brought about quite a few delays and cost overruns. The original projected price was around $80,000, but engineering complications and supply chain issues really drove up the costs. Tesla faced difficulties sourcing high-quality components and ensuring the durability of its powertrain. By 2008, after multiple delays, Tesla finally delivered the first Roadsters to customers. The final production model featured an electric motor producing 248 horsepower and 273 foot-pounds of torque, allowing it to accelerate from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. This was impressive, but more than anything, it was the range that really brought in attention. With a range of 244 miles per charge, the Roadster kind of shattered this stereotype of EVs being not only slow, but also totally impractical. Tesla initially claimed the Roadster was just a lightly modified Lotus Elise, but in reality, they had to redesign major parts of the car with Lotus's help. In the end, less than 7% of the parts were actually interchangeable between the Roadster and the Elise. And in many ways, this was a sign of what was to come. I mean, if Tesla could make 93% of an electric car, why couldn't they go the extra 7? Especially if they had proven that they could do, the one thing that everybody seemed to struggle with, which was make compelling battery technology. Amidst the development of the Roadster, something interesting was happening on the business side of things. On August 2nd, 2006, a post popped up on Tesla's company blog titled "The Secret Tesla Motors Master Plan." In terms of electric car development and philosophy, what was laid out wasn't really all that different than what Eberhard and Tarpening had already stated. What was unique, or at least well stated, was the simple business plan. To quote Elon, build a sports car, use that money to build an affordable car, use that money to build an even more affordable car. In many ways, this general outline would define Tesla and their moves in the automotive landscape going forward. In 2006, when this blog was posted, Elon was not CEO of Tesla, and he was also not a co-founder. Rather, he was an early investor around a year after the company was created, and would go on to become majority shareholder and CEO months after the official launch of the original Roadster. And there's little evidence that Elon had any sort of real involvement beyond the financial or business side of things at this time. I've tried to track down a screenshot of the original 2006 blog post to see if he was brazen enough to give himself these titles of CEO and co-founder at this time. Here's an archived version of the blog from 2010, and at this time, it just says that the article was written by Elon Musk, and that whole title of CEO and co-founder wasn't there. Here's another archived version of the article from 2011, and that title of CEO and co-founder was added. So it was sometime around 2010, 2011 that Elon started kind of rewriting Tesla's history, not with the addition of CEO. I mean, he was CEO at that point, but this co-founder title, and also in public interviews, simply describing himself as the founder of Tesla, that was all new. The launch of the Roadster and the press surrounding it, though entirely positive, it was kind of a culmination of Elon's frustration as not being recognized for his role in the company. Eberhard, who was then the CEO, was, in Elon's opinion, getting way too much publicity. Eberhard was better at explaining the car, and so, despite both him and Elon doing interviews, it was always Eberhard who got all the viral clips. In an email to Tesla's then PR director, Musk said this: "The portrayal of my role to date has been incredibly insulting," and that they needed to correct this perception. That is, the perception that Eberhard was the face of the company and the genius behind this car. The publishing of the secret master plan was a way for Elon to go around the traditional media outlet and speak directly to the public, presenting Tesla and the plan behind the company as mostly his own. This would culminate in Elon beginning to refer to himself as founder, and Elon, Martin Eberhard, and Mark Tarpening would actually come to a settlement over this issue. The settlement was part of a lawsuit where Eberhard and Tarpening sought to clarify their roles and rights in the company. As a result of the settlement, Elon Musk's title was officially modified to include co-founder in Tesla's communications. This was an effort to resolve the legal dispute over the appropriate attribution of Tesla's founding. Now, I don't make a whole lot about this part of Tesla's story. I personally may not like the way that Elon has always talked about the company, like he basically started it on his own. He cries about it and stuff, and That's just not the case, especially not the way that SpaceX actually was. He really did start that company. In the end, it was a classic story of startup tension between the actual minds behind the project and the dude with the cash. The best sources we have suggest that Elon was the only person not involved in the final look and styling of the Roadster, despite the fact that Elon would later say that the styling was the result of mixing his two favorite sports cars, a McLaren F1 and a Porsche 911. In my opinion, the secret master plan is so much more than a business plan about a series of cars built to fund more cars. The secret master plan of the secret master plan was Elon saying, hey, this is my company and this is my dream for it. For me, another interesting question surrounds the business plan of the master plan. Because even with the Roadster being a major success, it was little more than a custom car, so whose plan was it to build, for example, the S and the 3 and the X and the Y? Was it Elon's or was it the original founders? How much of the groundwork for later models was already there in those early days before he was essentially running the company and not just an investor? And that we don't necessarily know. What I do think is unmistakable is that Elon was slowly becoming more and more involved and more in charge over at Tesla, and he was positioning his role in the company in such a unique way compared to really any automotive manufacturer ever. There was quite a bit of growing hype around Tesla in these early years. Even reading through the snapshot of 2006 responses to the blog, you can tell these people are really excited, they're really involved in the tech world, and many of them are giving suggestions and sort of predicting the direction Tesla would go. But nobody could have seen how successful and game-changing it would be after the release of the Roadster. Many lessons were learned in the development of the Roadster, lessons that would translate well into the design of car number 2, that is, the affordable car. Yeah, I know, affordable. Guys, this is Silicon Valley, okay? Making the move from being a niche, small volume sports car producer, for a few rich people, to building a true, fully in-house production car for the masses, that was quite difficult for Tesla, and in many ways this goes back to the main differences between traditional automakers from, say, Detroit and Silicon Valley startups. In his fantastic book called Ludicrous, Edward Niedermeyer points out that automakers approach engineering as essentially process-driven bureaucracies, and for good reason. Designing a vehicle that can be sold in mass and for the entire world means that structure and minimizing waste and consistency, these things are so key. It's not so much about making the absolute best or most interesting or most forward-thinking car, it's more about making a vehicle that just kind of works for everybody everywhere. Tesla, a true Silicon Valley startup, didn't approach the design of cars and of the Model S this way. Rather, they would have talented engineers who were just kind of given free rein to have creative, innovative solutions. And this would lead to what is, in my opinion, the greatest and most innovative electric car ever in the Tesla Model S. Quite a bit was happening on the business side of things between the launch of the Roadster and the launch of the Model S some 4 years later. After delivery of the first Roadsters, Tesla found itself on the brink of collapse. The production Roadsters were not good and not as promised, and Tesla's first production car, known as the White Star, was nowhere near existence. On top of all this, the entire economy was collapsing, with the company on the verge of bankruptcy. Elon Musk, who was already heavily invested, personally bailed out Tesla by pouring in some $12 million of his own money after essentially lying about having investments secured, and he would settle fraud charges with the SEC for it. Just days before liquidation, about $40 million from investors was brought in, which did keep Tesla afloat. Again though, 12 of that $40 million was Elon's own money. Shortly after, in early 2009, Tesla took steps to prove its viability to receive a loan from the Department of Energy. This included raising the price of the base model Roadster by about 20%, and removing a few of the standard options, as well as adding things like destination charges. Despite pissing off these owners, Tesla received a $465 million loan from the US Department of Energy, giving it the financial stability needed to scale production and develop what would later become the Model S. This period was a turning point for Tesla that allowed them to transition from being really a struggling startup to a viable automaker. The development of the Model S was really an ambitious undertaking for Tesla at this point. The world of mass production luxury cars was completely uncharted territory for the company. The development of the Roadster had brought about quite a few questions about the very viability of electric cars as a whole. And these were questions that needed to be answered with the Model S. Unlike the Roadster, which was based on the Lotus Elise chassis, the Model S was built on an all-new skateboard platform, housing its battery pack beneath the floor. And this low center of gravity would improve handling and safety, while also maximizing interior space. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of the Model S was its long-range lithium-ion battery packs. Initially, Tesla offered 40 kilowatt-hour, 60 kilowatt-hour, and 85 kilowatt-hour options, with the 85 kilowatt-hour version achieving an EPA-rated range of 265 miles. And this was a figure that was unmatched by any EV at this time. Later, higher capacity batteries pushed the range even further, solidifying Tesla's dominance in the EV sector. We'll talk more about battery options in a moment. Another revolutionary feature was dual motor all-wheel drive, which was introduced with the Model S P85D in 2014. This variant achieved 691 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of 3.2 seconds, a figure that was basically unheard of for full-size luxury sedans. Other versions like the P100D really improved these numbers, with the ludicrous mode Model S hitting 0 to 60 in just 2.28 seconds, making it the fastest production sedan in the world at that time. Safety was another area where Tesla really pushed boundaries. The Model S and Model X achieved a 5-star safety rating from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, thanks to its robust aluminum body structure, large crumple zones, and advanced driver assistance systems, including autopilot, which was Tesla's semi-autonomous driving feature. The Model S platform, it really took Tesla to new heights. They were now a major player, they were publicly traded, Tesla's stock was beginning to soar, and they were arguably the most exciting automotive startup. Maybe ever. There was a growing frustration though, especially for some people who actually put deposits down on these Model S's. A frustration with the actual cars themselves in comparison to what was promised. One example of many, Elon promised a $50,000 version of the Model S, and even in the DOE loan application, it was assured that a $40,000 version of the car after tax incentives would be available. This would be that 40 kilowatt hour version, but then it was disclosed in 2013 that no such version of the car would be available, apparently because only 4% of the pre-orders picked this option, despite the fact that there's really no evidence that Model S purchasers were really able to share their preference. Still, the Model S was a massive success for Tesla, at least in terms of the stock market. They'd made a truly revolutionary car from the ground up. Compared to its peers, the Nissan Leaf was the first mainstream mass-market EV, but it had major limitations. The Chevy Volt was a plug-in hybrid, wasn't really a true EV, and the BMW i3 was innovative, but it had much lower range and less performance. The Model S really changed the game. It offered luxury, range, and performance in a way that no other EV had, but still, Tesla was losing money. Regardless, their most important years were ahead of them. With the Model S and Model X, Elon was showing his ability to brilliantly promote his company and their future vehicles. This was tech bro stuff applied to the automotive world like never before. All the way back in 2009 when the Model S was unveiled, at this time there was no car. It was so far from being production ready, but he didn't present it that way. He presented it like it was a reality. He was sort of manifesting it, and though it would take way longer to come out than he promised, that didn't matter. It was all about the hype and all about the pre-orders. But now they had a real car, and they learned so many lessons in developing the Model S. They'd made so many innovations, but the kind of scaled mass production necessary for the even more affordable car, they weren't really ready for that. Announced in 2016 and first delivered in 2017, the Model 3 was and still is Tesla's most ambitious project. It promised to be an affordable, high-performance electric vehicle with cutting-edge technology and industry-leading range, and there's no denying that it delivered. Still, its development was fraught with challenges from production difficulties to business scandals surrounding Tesla and Musk. The Model 3 introduced quite a few groundbreaking innovations that helped it stand out in the market. One of its most notable features was its minimalist interior, dominated by a single 15-inch touchscreen that controlled nearly all of the vehicle's functions, eliminating the traditional dashboard layout. This approach simplified manufacturing, and it also reinforced Tesla's focus on being, software driven in terms of their design. And its influence in this area, not just on electric cars, but on all production cars, cannot be overstated, whether you like it or not. Another important key innovation was the battery technology. Tesla developed an advanced battery architecture to improve range and reduce costs. The Model 3's standard range was about 220 miles on a single charge, while the long-range version exceeded 300 miles. These figures were beyond most of the competitors at this time. Tesla also implemented its autopilot hardware as a standard feature, which equipped the Model 3 with cameras, sensors, and AI-driven software that enabled semi-autonomous driving. Over-the-air software updates allowed Tesla to continuously improve vehicle performance. They introduced new features and enhancements long after the cars left the factory, and that's something that really started with the Model S. Another major innovation was the use of a steel-aluminum hybrid frame, a departure from the all-aluminum bodies of the S and X, and this made the Model 3 more cost-effective to produce while still maintaining safety and performance. Despite its innovative design, the Model 3's rollout was plagued by manufacturing difficulties. Elon Musk famously referred to the situation as production hell, as Tesla struggled to meet its ambitious production targets. The company had promised to build 5,000 Model 3s per week by the end of 2017, but that wasn't going to happen. One of the biggest issues was Tesla's over-reliance on automation. Musk had initially envisioned a fully automated production line, but the reality proved far more complicated. Robots malfunctioned, and some assembly tasks that were meant to be performed by machines, things like installing wiring harnesses, they had to be done manually. Musk would later admit that Tesla had over-automated the production process and had to scale back its reliance on robotics to meet demand. Tesla resorted to strange methods. In mid-2018, the company built an assembly line inside a massive tent outside its Fremont factory to speed up production. While unconventional, this strategy helped Tesla finally reach its goal of 5,000 Model 3s per week by July 2018. Tesla was in kind of a rough place surrounding the launch and development of the Model 3. The company was burning through cash at an alarming rate. Quite a few analysts doubted whether Tesla could survive long enough to ever really be profitable. One major controversy during this time was Elon Musk's 2018 tweet about taking Tesla private. In August 2018, he tweeted that he was considering doing so at a $420 per share price, claiming once again that he had funding secured. And this statement would lead to another SEC investigation. As it turned out, no such funding had been finalized. The fallout resulted in Musk being forced to step down as Tesla's chairman and also pay a $20 million fine, though he still would retain his role as CEO. During this time, something critical happened, a sort of shift in how especially wealthy fanboys viewed Tesla. It was no longer necessarily about owning and buying a Tesla. It was about the stock and the potential for massive wealth in this tech company. Niedermeyer, in his book, puts it this way: the novelty of Tesla's approach to the car business meant that belief in Musk was more important than any of the lessons learned in the century of automotive history, which only trapped the established automakers and their investors in their uninspiring prison of rationalism. As long as you believed in Musk and his high-tech, environmentally friendly future, you too could join the winning team and make money by evangelizing his visions. We'll talk more about this later on, because this cult-like belief in one person who has shown himself to be unpredictable, it has in many ways backfired and left Tesla kind of a visionless company today. Now, at this time, Tesla also faced scrutiny over its treatment of workers and manufacturing conditions. Reports surfaced of long hours, workplace injuries, and just an intense work culture at the Fremont factory. Also, Tesla clashed with labor unions, resisting unionization efforts by its employees and drawing criticism from labor rights organizations. But despite these controversies, the Model 3 ultimately became a massive success. It became the best-selling electric car in the world, and it played a crucial role in Tesla achieving its first sustained period of profitability. By 2020, the Model 3 had outsold all other EVs combined in some markets, and it helped push Tesla's market valuation past, major automakers like Ford and GM. Tesla's ability to scale Model 3 production transformed the company from being this niche luxury EV maker into really a global automotive powerhouse. The Model 3 also laid the groundwork for Tesla's future vehicles, influencing the design and production of the Model Y, which shared much of its platform and manufacturing techniques. Now, Tesla's reveal of the Roadster in 2017 was kind of a marketing masterstroke. The car was presented as a surprise at the Tesla Semi event, really catching the automotive world off guard. Musk's bold claims, things like a quarter-mile time of 8.8 seconds and a sub-2 second 0 to 60, which would make it the fastest production car ever at this time. This all really captured headlines. The Roadster's futuristic design and the promise of an available SpaceX package with cold gas thrusters. The fanboys got excited and they put their money down. Tesla immediately opened reservations, requiring a $50,000 deposit for the base model and a staggering $250K for the limited run Founder Series. Even with no clear production timeline beyond an initial target of 2020, buyers essentially paid for a dream. Betting on Tesla's ability to deliver on its audacious claims, the Roadster fell into a sort of development limbo. Tesla reportedly pushed back the car's release date. In 2020, Musk cited a focus on the Model Y and Cybertruck as reasons for the Roadster's postponement, claiming the work would resume once those vehicles were in full production. By 2021, he said that engineering for the Roadster would be completed in 2022, with production beginning in 2023, another deadline that kind of quietly passed with no real progress. By 2024, Tesla had shifted its focus almost entirely to artificial intelligence, full self-driving software, and the Optimus humanoid robot project. The Roadster is essentially now an afterthought. The Roadster's perpetual delays have sparked quite a bit of controversy. Many early reservation holders, especially those who placed down, six-figure deposits, they've grown frustrated with the lack of communication and sense that there's any sort of updates. Tesla has historically struggled with customer service, and the Roadster's infinite delay has only exacerbated concerns about Tesla as a company being accountable, really. Critics argue that Tesla's reluctance to produce the Roadster stems from the fact that it no longer aligns with the company's larger strategic goals. Unlike the first generation Roadster, which served as a proof of concept for Tesla's EV technology, the new Roadster doesn't really have the same necessity. Tesla's now a mass market automaker, and high volume vehicles like the Model 3, Model Y, and apparently Cybertruck take priority over this really what could be awesome but ultra low volume hypercar. In the end, the promised specs of the Roadster, they're just numbers on paper. The car itself has evolved into kind of a symbol of Tesla's struggles with ambitious promises versus actually executing anymore. And Tesla had other places to focus their attention at that time, particularly on making a gigantic hotel ice machine on wheels. All the way back at the time of the Model S launch, Elon tweeted about his dream of a high-performance Tesla truck with extreme torque and dynamic air suspension. Though in 2014, in an interview with CNN, he downplayed the idea, suggesting an electric F-150 style truck wasn't really a priority. Tesla's 2016 master plan mentions a pickup, but details were pretty vague, and in 2017, at the Tesla Semi and Roadster unveiling, there were hints of the Cybertruck emerging, including armor glass and kind of even an odd truck in a truck concept. But at this time, the actual Cybertruck design was non-existent. By 2019, Tesla's stock was surging, and Musk was teasing the upcoming truck, dismissing internet renders as inaccurate and describing it as an armored personnel carrier from the future. Tesla even filed a trademark for Cybertruck. The unveiling in November of 2019, intentionally coinciding with the Blade Runner timeline, was a spectacle, and it kind of shocked the world at this point. Unlike past Tesla unveils, the Cybertruck reveal felt like a joke, but it was very real. Musk framed the Cybertruck as a complete rethinking of trucks, mocking traditional designs, while claiming that that part of the industry had stagnated for 100 years. He compared the Cybertruck to the Ford F-150, arguing against body-on-frame construction in favor of an exoskeleton. This didn't translate into more interior or bed space. Instead, the focus was on it being bulletproof. The features that were promised were ambitious: 3,500-pound payload, which ended up actually being 2,500, 14,000-pound towing capacity, which ended up actually being 11,000 pounds, and a 6.5-foot bed, which was actually 6 foot, and over 500 miles of range, which real-world tests today show about 225 miles is the range for the Cybertruck. at least the dual motor version. The infamous armor glass demo failure was kind of an internet sensation, and Musk exaggerated other features like a 10-micron panel gap tolerance and an onboard air compressor that never was delivered, and also a floating capacity. All of this despite major panel gap issues, a lack of delivery on really any of the specs. Even the 0 to 60 time, which is impressive at 2.9 seconds, is not the same as 2.6 seconds. So where did these numbers come from? 4 years later, the first production Cybertruck delivery event doubled down on Tesla's identity crisis, blending futuristic gimmicks with traditional truck marketing. The tagline, "More utility than a truck, faster than a sports car," it just all felt misplaced, to say the least. And it really showed that the Cybertruck didn't really have any sort of actual purpose in the real world. Ultimately, its promises fell short. It cost more, achieved less than it claimed, and would become a meme. It didn't follow any of Tesla's previous design language or business goals, and as you know, sales of Cybertrucks are completely stagnating. I think the Cybertruck fiasco brought out some dirty little secrets that many in the know understood already, but the general public hadn't totally grasped. And that's that Tesla doesn't have great quality or QC. This wasn't the first Tesla to have terrible panel gaps and awful interior build quality. But I don't even think this is Tesla's biggest problem at this point. When it comes to prospective buyers, the real problem is that buying a Tesla is no longer a desirable, cool thing. And that's always kind of been the point of Teslas. They were cool. They were different. They're not anymore. They just aren't. And sales dropping is primarily due to this. And this brings us to potentially the final era of Tesla. Not just for this video, but like the final era that I like to call Elon the oligarch. Okay, I don't actually care much for politics, especially on this channel. I'm much more interested in how automakers approach car development. Here's the thing though, I'm not even sure what to say today about Tesla and its fearless leader in terms of car development. I actually miss when Elon was up on stage spouting ridiculous promises. At least it was fun, it was better than whatever we're getting today. Tesla has this idea of the most affordable car, which apparently will just be a stripped down Model Y. There's also Tesla's endless promise of self-driving cars and taxis, and that's all still very problematic and will probably never happen. Even Tesla's promise and promotion of self-driving cars and self-driving packages has led to multiple federal investigations of fraud. A senior Tesla engineer testified that a 2016 video promoting Tesla's self-driving technology was partially staged, showing capabilities that the system couldn't perform. And of course, this has happened a bunch with Tesla, even the recent Tesla robotaxi event. Those aren't real robots. I think where Tesla has lost the plot a bit is in its failure to keep capturing the imagination of what the future could hold for cars. This really is where Tesla stood out in comparison to literally every other major automotive manufacturer. Tesla brought back the mid-century spirit of impressing the general public with a vision of what the automotive future could hold. At a time when cars were getting so boring, showing off technologies that appeared both impossible and yet right around the corner. And despite delays and controversies, Tesla often did deliver. But today, it's sort of known what is and isn't possible with cars. The constant promise of self-driving means little at this point and doesn't do as much for Tesla's stock anymore. Tesla's software-driven cars no longer feel revolutionary, and their fearless leader seems entirely uninterested in the company's original vision. To make it even worse, his actions and words seem to actually directly contradict Tesla's original goals. And so Tesla's sales are down by upwards of 75% in key European markets. Tesla stock has plummeted by about 50% since December of 2024. It feels like the company of the future has been resting on its laurels. And I think it's time that the board of Tesla begins seriously considering if the face of Tesla even cares about Tesla and the things that are laid out in Master Plan 2 and 3. I think that all of the investors betting on Elon to keep Tesla stock high are seeing that maybe functioning like a cult doesn't actually work as an automaker. Well, I look forward to seeing where Tesla goes from here. They really do find themselves at a turning point, a sort of fork in the road. Where do you think Tesla is headed? I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure this video will spark a good debate. We'll see you guys in the next video. Also, don't forget to check out my mini course on how to buy a classic car. I think you guys will love it. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Drive safe.